After writing 2 transformational books myself and supporting many other beings to do the same, I've become enthralled by the deep and mysterious magic that's activated when we choose to say yes to ourselves and commit to the book writing journey. Of course, we want to inspire change and new perspectives in our readers, but the transformation that happens as an author, both throughout the writing process and by actually releasing your book into the world, is surprisingly potent. I know I've been blindsided in the most disruptive and delicious ways by some of the changes my books have brought into my life. Writing a book is like casting a spell. Although we can never be completely sure what's going to be unleashed during the process, we choose to do it anyway. This Unbound one is a heroic journey. Each book has the potential to be a magical portal, a doorway to a new world, both for you and your reader. Each book has a very specific medicine that it's here to share with us. And each book gives us the opportunity to alchemize the magnificent imperfection of our experience into gold. The truth is that anyone can write a book. We could all get a few thousand words down and put them together. But what fascinates me is what happens when we allow the book writing process to go deeper. When we say, fuck it, get naked and dive way down beneath the surface. Letting go of the shoulds and any need to be acceptable, sensible, or approved of. What fascinates me is what happens when we make ourselves fully available to being transformed by the very act of writing a book. This is Unbound Writing, and this is the process we'll be exploring together here in the Unbound Writers Club. I'm Nicola, author and founder of the Unbound Press, and I help magical beings to write the transformational book they're really here to write at this time. I'm your guide here in the Unbound Writers Club, and the aim of this podcast is to help you to feel supported, encouraged, activated as you embark on your book writing journey. Whether you're a first-time author or have many books out in the world, my hope is that you will find something here to inspire you. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the Unbound Writers Club. Welcome back. If you are a regular listener, it's good to have you here. And if this is your first time tuning in, then I am so glad that you found us. I am today going to be sharing with you what to focus on in the middle stage of your book writing process. So right now, we are running this series in the Unbound Writers Club, 3-part series, where we're talking about the different stages of the book writing process and what to focus on at each stage. So last time we were talking about the beginning of your book writing journey, what you want to be focusing on right at the start. So we talked about like connecting with the energy of your book. We talked about like what your mission is, what your purpose is for your book, and also like the clues that are there in your past experience, like your stories. What are the key themes of your life? What's brought you to this point, and how each of those can provide different layers of clarity for you to give you a really powerful start. So you get into momentum, you're writing, and like when you're actually kind of in at the core of your book writing journey, you've been writing for a little while, you're pretty sure what the book wants to be. The middle stages can sometimes, they can feel a bit messy. And this can be the stage where like stuff starts to come up. Maybe you start to doubt whether you can get to a point of completion. You start to question yourself. So today I want to give you 3 things to focus on when you're in this part of the process that can really feel like the messy middle. Yeah, because you're in it. You're really in it. And like whether you're at that stage right now or, you're going to be at that stage at some point, I think it's really helpful to have this sense of what to focus on. So let's dive in with that. The first thing I'm going to talk about And the first thing I invite you to reflect on, you may do this earlier in the journey, but certainly once you start to get into your writing process, is the reader journey. So, what is the journey you are taking your reader on through your book? So, the idea here, and you'll want to kind of reflect back on particularly like your mission, your purpose for the book, like what's your intention for the book? And that will give you a really good sense of the journey that you're taking your reader on. Like, where are they at the beginning of the process? Why are they called to your book in the first place? And where do you want them to be at the end of your book? Like, what's the impact you want to have? What's the transformation you want to hold space for as they read the book? What new perspectives do you want to introduce them to? What new ideas do you want to share? How do you want them to feel? These are all the kind of questions that you want to be reflecting on at this point and really feeling into how you're writing, how your book can take your reader on that particular journey. What are the stages of the journey that you're going to be taking them on? Because that's when like the structure of your book really can begin to take form. So you can take your reader on this journey in a number of different ways. So it could be purely through sharing your own story, like particularly if your book is more of a memoir. So it will be through your story that you are taking your reader on this journey. Yeah. Sharing the different stages, the different parts of your journey will help them to reflect on their own and like tune into key learnings, kind of activate this sense of transformation. So it may be that it's through your story that you will be taking them on this journey. It may be that you're sharing a particular process that has different stages or steps. Maybe it's a process you use in your work with clients, if you work with clients. Maybe there's certain principles or themes that you are sharing with them. Or maybe it's a mixture of all three of those. So, it's partly story based. You are taking them through a process, but you're also sharing some principles to support that. That's very much how my books have tended to take form. When I think about Unbound, the second book in particular, I very much began by setting the scene for my reader by sharing elements of my own story. So, that's what you want to be doing at the beginning of your book, is really kind of welcoming your reader, letting them know they're in the right place, that you get them, setting the scene, and sharing something about yourself before you start to actually go on the journey. So that's how it was with Unbound. And then what I realized is that there were these key principles that were coming through as I was writing the book. Like, these weren't clear at the beginning. If I had tried to do this at the beginning of writing Unbound, I wouldn't have been able to tune into like what the book wanted to be fully. I had to begin the writing process and allow what wanted to come through to come in order for the book to take form. So what became clear was that there were these certain like 5 principles around living unbound. And, that would be a big part of the journey that I was taking my reader on, introducing them to these principles and continuing to share stories and examples throughout. And then I shared some of the challenges that my readers might experience when it comes to living in an unbound way. So there was this kind of process that I was taking them through all the way through. I was sharing elements of my story and also sharing these 5 key principles. And that was very much the journey I was taking my reader on. So the question here is, what do I want to leave my reader with? What do I want them to experience as they are reading my book? And that will start, like, rather than feeling in this place where maybe it feels scattered and messy, you can look at what you have and go, okay, like, if this is what I want my reader to experience, how is what I've got here going to support them in taking them on this journey? So this is something we very much dive more deeply into in the Birth Your Transformational Book group program. Like everything that I'm sharing in this series around the different stages of writing your book, this is the core content for Birth Your Transformational Book. But the reader journey is a really key element. So that's the first thing to focus on. The second thing that I invite you to focus on, I mean, you might not be able to ignore these actually at any stage of the journey, but they can really come up in the middle stage. And that is any fears and doubts that you're experiencing. So the invitation in the middle stage is really to start alchemizing any particular flavor of fear or doubt that is coming up for you. So, I mean, this kind of stuff is going to come up right through the book writing process. But when you get to the core of your own book writing journey, like you've moved through the enthusiasm and excitement at the initial stages and you're really in it, like this is where like these different fears and doubts can really rear their head. Like, who am I to do this? Like, what was I thinking even beginning this? Am I good enough? Am I too much? Like all of this stuff. And what I invite you to do at this stage is really to acknowledge, like welcome in any fears and doubts that are coming up. Really be curious, like say about the specific flavor of fear or doubt that is coming up for you. And then you get to transform and alchemize them actually into the gold of compelling writing. So this is a big part of the unbound writing approach in particular, is rather than trying to ignore any fears or doubts, certainly rather than making them mean that we're wrong or that we shouldn't be writing our books, it's like, actually, what is here? Like, how can I harness the power, the potency of these particular fears and doubts that are coming up for me and include them in my book? What I mean by that is if there are fears and doubts coming up for you, it's very, very likely that something similar is coming up for your reader. So if the good enough piece is coming up for you, like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm good enough. I mean, I don't know who that isn't coming up for. I think we all hold that in one way or another. It's kind of this universal fear, question, doubt that we have. Rather than trying to ignore it or push it away, like you get to explore that in your writing as material for your book, because it's pretty much guaranteed that your reader will be experiencing that. Of course, you relate it to whatever you're writing about. So, when I was writing Unbound Writing, which is about writing a transformational book, that was super, I guess this is like a super meta example. But of course, what was coming up for me during the writing process was going to be the same kind of thing that would be coming up for my reader as they're thinking about writing a transformational book. So, I got to welcome in those fears and doubts and know like this is amazing content for my book. But whatever you're writing about, like if you're writing about money or abundance, like my next book is called The Abundant Author, and all sorts of stuff has come up around abundance, like financial abundance, as I've been in the writing process. And rather than me thinking, oh, how can I write about this? Because, it just feels like a mess at the moment. Well, it certainly has done at certain points of the writing process. It's like, oh, no, I know why this is coming up. Because I'm inviting it in because I'm focusing on this actual subject. That's what I've chosen to write about. So I'm actually going to see this as amazing material for the book. Like there's so much learning for me and so much learning for my reader here. So we actually get to allow any fears or doubts to be a really important part of our books. And then it transforms the way that we see them and we think about these fears and doubts that are coming up for us. Like this is where the alchemy happens. So that's the second thing that I really recommend you kind of put the spotlight on and focus on in these middle stages of writing your book. And the third piece is storytelling, like really allowing yourself to hone your craft, like see the whole writing process as this Like, you don't have to be the best writer before you start writing your book. When you get into the core of your writing journey, it's like, oh, now I really get to have this opportunity to hone my craft, like to find my unique voice. How do I want to write my book? Yeah. What kind of style do I have? How can I really bring that through? So, what I recommend here when it comes to storytelling is being really curious about other writers that you enjoy reading, whether that is books or, maybe you follow someone on social media and you're really attracted to the way they write. It really resonates with you. Maybe you're on somebody's like newsletter email list because you love their writing. And this is not about copying anyone, but just reflecting on, like, what is it about this person and the way they write that really appeals to me? Is it that they're super informal and humorous? Is it that they've got this like realness that comes through? Is it that they're more whimsical? Yeah. Like, what is it? What is the style that appeals to you? And how can you bring that through more in your own writing? So you really get to experiment with how you enjoy writing, like bring through different elements of your voice. And this piece is really about allowing yourself to use your own personal stories to illustrate the key messages, the key themes, the ideas that you want to share. So honing your craft and really like bringing your story through as much as possible. I was running a guest teacher session earlier this week, and one of the things that we were speaking about was, how our stories are so, so powerful. Like, this is what gets to bring our writing to life. But very often, and like I did this myself during the session, like I almost skipped straight to like getting into the how-tos of writing a book and forgot to share my own story. And it's only because the host who had invited me to run the session said, oh, actually, Nicola, could you share something about your story, like how you came to be running the Unbound Press? And as I did that, it was like, yeah, this is what provides the context. Yeah, this is what is going to bring the whole session to life and create connection with these women who've never met me before. And it's the same with your reader. Like, maybe your reader has followed you, maybe they know you, but it could be like with books, it can be someone completely new to your world. So, stories are how we create connection. And you probably want to include more of your own story than feels comfortable. Yeah. This is where, one of the Unbound writing prompts we often use is like, it really invite in your too muchness. Yeah. Really inviting in that quality of, I'm going to allow myself to be too much. I'm going to share more of my story than maybe feels comfortable. That's okay, because that's what's going to bring my writing to life. So those are the 3 specific areas that I encourage you to focus on in the middle stages of writing your book. I mean, this isn't a linear process. So of course you will have a sense of these at the beginning as well. But thinking about the reader journey, the journey you want to take your reader on, alchemizing any fears and doubts that are coming up for you, like inviting them onto the page, and storytelling, honing your craft and using stories to illustrate the key messages you want to share. So I would love to hear from you. If you have found that helpful, which one of those resonates with you most? The best place for you to find me is on Instagram. I'm at Nicola Humber. Always very happy to receive messages, comments, let me know. And as I mentioned during that, everything that I've spoken about during this episode is part of the core content that we are covering in Birth Your Transformational Book. It's the new group program that we are offering at the Unbound Press, designed to take you right from that very first idea through to, through the process of writing your book and actually publishing it and birthing it into the world. So if you are interested in being part of that. If you really want to commit to your book writing journey and you want to be in the most supportive creative community I know, then check out the details in the show notes, or you can go to unboundwriting.co/birth your transformational book. Okay. All right, my loves. Next time I will be back with the final episode in that series when we're talking about what to focus on in order to complete your book. So look forward to being back in your earbuds for that. And in the meantime, happy writing. What do you do when you want to write a book, but the usual approaches are leaving you feeling restricted, pressurized, not at all enough, and pretty dry, to be honest? You find another way, of course. And if you are listening to this, my free unconventional book writing guide is going to be perfect for you. It's designed especially for soul-led coaches, healers, and mentors who want to write a transformational book without spending hours on end chained to a desk. In it, I'm giving you my unique spin on the top 10 questions I hear from would-be authors, and it's going to help you liberate the way you write forever. Download your free copy of the guide now over at nicolahumber.com/10, the number 10, 10 hyphen questions.